Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am just off screen here. Today I just want to go over a bit of a product review, and I'll say from the onset, I will have affiliate links and everything in the description below, but this isn't necessarily going to be a positive review, and my summary is basically that, especially for opal carving, 99.99% of people will not need this at all. It does have some positives, but a lot of them are not overly useful. So you can see here, it's just a standard little microscope. I've been playing with a lot of microscopes. Yes, I've got a $500,000 microscope at work, but I can't spend all day at work looking at opals under it. So I've been testing a lot of those little ones, the like handheld kind of pen, big torch style ones, and they've all been incredibly disappointing. This is the first one that I've thought is half decent, and so I'll be using this one on the channel a little bit. But like I said, pros and cons. So first we'll just have a look at the whole system for anyone that's interested in this for other reasons, and then we'll look at it in terms of the opal side of things after that. So first up, it's pretty full on. It's actually got a lot of functionality. So here you can see it's got a little HDMI output. So that plugs into the back. That can plug into a TV screen basically, so you can just display it. It doesn't really do anything other than display. This other cord over here, this one will help you recharge the batteries. This currently is running just off batteries, but you can plug it into your computer. You can also run this like a camera through your computer as well. So that's what I'll do. If I'm doing live streaming and we're looking at things under the microscope, that's how I'll be doing it. Then there's a base. So the base here, the base is a little bit annoying. As you can see, if I put my finger on here and you look at the screen, the colors are a little bit off. It's trying to do a bit of a white balance with the background here. So it makes everything really weird, high contrast and stuff. So one thing that I do to fix that is just this, a piece of paper, piece of white paper. And what I'll do with that is just put it down and stick it over the surface here. And that fixes a lot of the color kind of problems, which is really useful when you go and start looking at things like opal, where color is important. Other things on the base, these little guys here, I might just rip one off. So there's two of them. These little guys here, they're little USB connected LED lights. If I chuck it back in, just here you can see if I turn this one up, you'll get a light shining down. Let's see if I can make it obvious here. So here I turn this light up, picture gets brighter. The camera itself actually does a lot of auto corrections and stuff as well. So even when I turn it down, you can see it's just boosting it back up to look fairly consistent. These two little USB lights are super weak, but they're better than the one that comes out of the microphone. Good thing is that it's not directly in line with the camera, so we don't get a lot of the glare issues. I can show that off in a second. Now, for the microscope itself, there's a little focusing ring here, but it also has its own little light coming from underneath. So if I zoom out and put my finger underneath it, just down here, I can turn on a light. And the light is okay. It's a fairly white light. But where it has a problem is because it's directly where the camera is pointing down, you're getting all these little reflections. And maybe I can put like a polarizing filter on the front of it, which I'll probably have to do, or have to try to do. And you can see on these fake opals here, you can see all the little LEDs, so I can actually count them. It looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So there must be 14 little LEDs up there. But unfortunately, it just bounces and the reflection bounces straight back. So when we're looking at things like opals, it's not great. Most other things, doesn't really matter. If it's non-reflective, so like reading a document or something, or what I'm going to do is a bit of micro soldering and stuff, it's not a huge problem. But as soon as you get a reflective surface, have a look at this. So this is the calibration tool. You can just see straight away, all you're getting are these massive glowy boys. Each of those LEDs are just getting recorded really well off the reflective surface. And unfortunately, I work with a lot of reflective surfaces. Opal is like glass. It's going to bounce back, especially if you get a good polish. So that is super annoying. We turn that one off. And if we want light, we turn those little side ones on, and then you can see there's no huge reflections. So yeah, this way it's much better. Now this is zoomed all the way out. You can see here, this is a grid of 1 by 1 little squares. It looks tiny on a little transparent slide. I can zoom all the way in. So we'll go down. It doesn't have an autofocus zoom function. So as you can see, I'm going down, but the focus of the camera itself is staying the same. So it's going to be all out of focus, but we'll get nice and close. We'll just take it all the way down to its extreme. So that's it, all the way down on the 1x1 grid. And then what we're going to do is we're going to manually focus until we find the spot. So yeah, no autofocus is tricky, but that's okay. It will come to a bit of a problem though, which I can show off in a minute as well. So there you go, a 1x1mm grid, so nice and clear when you zoom right in. So as far as the microscope, it works pretty well. If I move over here, that's the smallest, thinnest line on this slide. It's 0.03mm. Does a pretty good job. And what's also useful is this one down here, so I can get a particle size. And that's all in microns, so that's a 100 micron dot on that far left. Just over here. So you can see pretty small stuff, which is cool. Now, some other bits and pieces that are useful. A little remote. So the remote is pretty handy because one thing that I've had a problem with the handheld ones is if my hands are shaky, like I've just had a coffee and they're a little bit shaky, then when you try to press any buttons on it or try to hold it steady and all of that kind of stuff, it gets real dodge. So luckily enough for me, this little remote has a little photo function. So if I press that, we can take a photo. And if I press this one, that'll take a video for me. And that'll all save on a card. So at the moment, it's got a 32 gig micro SD card. So if I zoom out, it's just under here. Little 32 micro SD. I probably shouldn't take it out while it's on. And then, yeah, you can press the buttons here. But if you look at this, if you look at the screen, when I go to press the camera shot button, so it's taken a photo, but look how much it'll wobble. And that'll give you blurry shots. Same with the video function over here. So if I'm exaggerating it a bit here, but even if you just tap it, you can see. If I was to press a button, you'd be shifting slightly out, and with a microscope, that's not ideal. The construction of all of this, by the way, is this down here, plastic, plastic. The arm coming out, plastic, plastic top. The only metal part is this aluminium extrusion that they've used for the vertical, which is good. It's much more rigid, and it allows those cogs to crank it up and down on the Z-axis, which feels really nice, feels nice and strong. This one that connects to the computer will also charge your batteries. It'll also just mean that it doesn't run off the batteries, so that's quite good. But it does mean I can pick this up and move it outside if I want to. It's a fairly lightweight unit. It comes in 3 sizes. So Vevor have 4 different options for these little microscopes. There's one that is just the pure handheld one. I have tried that. It's pretty much the same as this. The zoom isn't quite as good. I think these are all at least 1000 to 1300 times magnification. So pretty good. And then the handheld one is about 40 bucks. This has 3 different size screens. So there's a little small one, there's this one, and then there's one that's even bigger, a 10-inch. They range from about $70, I think, for the small one, all the way up to 200 and something for the big one. This one was in between. I got this one and it was on sale for somewhere just over 100 bucks. It was pretty good. And yeah, comes with the remote, lens cover, the microscope itself. You have to assemble this. It's not too bad. You can actually take this one off. It just slides straight out the top, but I've put it in there and wedged it in pretty damn strong. And I almost forgot to do it, but I'll quickly go back and just rattle off a few of the important parameters of the microscope and camera and all of that kind of stuff. It's got a 2 megapixel lens. The magnification of this model is up to 1200 times. The bigger screen one is a little bit better for some reason, and I think goes 1300. The handheld ones are only about 1000. Yeah, the focusing on this is fully manual. The working distance is 0 to 40 millimeters. The video resolution on this one, it can do 720 and 1080p, and it will take those videos in MP4 format. Photos are in JPEGs. The screen size of this one is the 7-inch one. The screen resolution is 1024 by 600p. The charging voltage in current is just 5 volt, 1 amp, pretty standard. The battery in this one is 4000 milliamp hours and has a working time of about 5 hours, which is pretty good. I haven't fully pushed it to the limits because I've plugged it into my computer and been playing with it. I haven't had it run out yet. And then the SD card in here is a 32 gig that it comes with, but it can go up to 64. It just has to be a high speed class of card. Otherwise your video is not going to go so well. Anytime you're doing video, you want to have a pretty decent card in there. And like I said, with all the plastic and stuff, the plastic is all ABS, and then the aluminium alloy extrusion. Pretty decent kit for like $100. I can't complain too much. But now maybe we'll focus on the screen, and I will show you a bunch of opals under it and show you the pros and cons around the opal side of things, because that is the main use, and that's what most people watching the channel are going to look at this for. So let's have a look. Okay, now I've got some fake opals, some synthetic opal under the camera. I've got it on a pretty average kind of magnification, so this isn't really close, otherwise you'd only see a small segment of one. So we'll keep it like this because I can demonstrate a lot of stuff like this. Now, this is with all of the lights off. So the microscope camera light off and the two little arm one's off. This light is just picking up what's behind me on the ceiling and my little camera recording light that I've got on all the time. The good quality one. But you can see with the good quality light, because everything's in the way of it, you're getting this shadow. So there's a big shadow artifact over here. It's okay on this side. It seems to be reaching. I don't have it centered with the light behind this or above is kind of just over here, hence the shadow. And I mean, at a pinch, it does look okay, but the colors aren't quite there. Now, if I turn on the microscope one, and then just let it auto balance itself, you can see we're getting that huge reflection, and the light is too white. So you're not getting those, look at what happens to the warm tones. The warm tones, like the oranges, the yellows, the reds, they start going real funky. I mean, I wouldn't say it's any better than having a low light or a shadow cast over it, because it starts looking hyper contrasty and disgusting. Not ideal. So we'll turn that one back off, and I'll turn on the little side army ones. Now these do a much better job. That's them on pretty strong. You can see, I mean, this is fake opal, so it always looks a little bit wrong. And if I get the focus right on the face, you can see it does look much better. So for me, for our use case of opals, I would always say just use the side ones. And you can see they're getting a little bit of reflection across here and here, but it's not too bad. It comes up on the camera pretty good as well. So this camera, you guys, I'm just showing you everything on the screen rather than what I would actually do, which is connect it to the computer and just give a feed that way, just so that you get a bit of an idea of what this actual screen does itself. It does look a bit better just straight onto the computer. And of course now I'm recording a screen, so it's going to look a touch worse anyway. But looking at the preview monitor, it looks pretty good. So if I max out these little arm lights, they can also be repositioned if I bring them in real close. And if I even move them around, you can see just there, that's me moving them. That's them pretty close. They do a really good job. So the color is pretty much spot on. I mean, the CRI would be a little bit low. It's not as good as the LED panels that I use. It's definitely not a 97 plus kind of thing, but it might be up there in the 90, 92s, possibly even 95. It's doing a really good job with the cool and warm colors, especially if you look at OP1 there, which is a pretty varied one. It's got the greens, blue body, and then little scatterings of orange red. I mean, we can look at a example of a really hot, warm color fake opal. It's like a Mexican opal on steroids. It does not look great at all. That's actually it in focus, and it looks like that. I don't know why they make that one. We can even go hot pink, wild. If we look at something more Kubipede-like, fake, but looks okay. And if we go to something that's more like what they try to do as a black opal, but terribly, it does a good job. So the little side arm lights are really good. There you go, a couple more of their dark ones. So the light ones, the dark ones, it does a pretty good job. If it's just a full-blown orange, it really struggles. That's blown out the picture quite a bit on OP31 there. There's some really disgusting green ones as well. That's not one of the worst ones. Over here, there we go. And yeah, it does green very well as well. So all in all, it is quite usable. Let me see if I can get a triplet or something out. So there you go, there's a nice little opal triplet, a Jeff Stock special. And if I just move it around a bit, just pressing down on the paper behind it, you can see it captures the play pretty well. The color is pretty close to what I see by eye. The pattern is pretty good as well, you can see on that green there. So it is very good. Now the main problem is, I can't really get my fingers in there that easily. I mean, I can put one finger here and maybe just hold this on here and try to get the rolling pattern. But you can see as I roll up, just that slight millimeter difference of raising it starts to get it out of focus. So it's already out of focus by the time I go over here. So if we look at it and try to inspect if it's a triplet or not, see it's already out of focus just from the width of the triplet. So if I just hold it there carefully and refocus, there you go. Back in focus. Easy triplet identification. But then if I flop it back down, out of focus again. So I've got to refocus it in to get the pattern back together. So in terms of handling stuff underneath the camera and using it as a video camera, it is a little bit rough. For photos, it's ideal. And maybe I'm going to have to build a little tiny rotating platform to get it to spin. But moving things up and down or diagonally, you're going to automatically force it out of focus. Because even the thickness of this, which is only, I don't know, maybe like 6mm max, that 6mm difference is huge to this camera. So a little bit unfortunate there. Let me get a better Opal out. There we go. A pretty chunky Cooper Pedy piece I worked on for Julian. And this is a crystal Opal. And this is what I like to look at. I'm going to have to be careful with this metal poker because this is a finished one. You can have a look, like right at the bottom edge of this, you can see there's a lot of these little dispersed bits. Now they're not inclusions on the face, they are inclusions deep within the Opal. And I can focus down on them. So you can see like on that little one in here, or that one over here, these are little sandy spots that are inside the Opal. And this is one of the things I want to look at. I also want to look at matrix Opal a lot. And I want some really good photos of some Opal patterns just to have on the website and stuff. And unfortunately, you can see over here, I've got the greasy fingertips and the sweaty fingertips. So I'm going to have to clean this Opal again. It looks like it's scuffed the surface, but it is just my greasiness. So as you can see, it's really good static. But once I'm trying to start handling it and stuff, the light quality is changing a lot because my finger's blocking some of the light coming in from the little arms. I can reposition them up here somewhere. But if I want to get like the 3D effect of Opal and move it around a bit like this, you're going to see it comes in and out of focus. It's really hard to keep my greasy fingers out of the way. It's just a little bit... It's always going to be hard. When you're zoomed in this far, and this isn't even as far in as we can go, I'll go in a little bit further now, but any kind of little movement will completely shoot the quality of the video. So if I go in even more, and we focus up, the closer you go, the worse it is. So now if I try to handle it, it's just going to come straight out of focus every time I change the Z-axis. So anytime I give it a bit of a twist, you can see here, out of focus, here, back in focus. So for people selling stones and stuff, not really worth it. But for people just studying opals, it's incredibly good because I really like to see a lot of stuff like this. The little sand spots beneath the surface, you can see some of the ones that are right on the back, and we can get some of these really nice patterns. What I want to do is take some good photos, high quality photos and stuff to just add some pages on the website about opal patterns and pricing and all that kind of stuff. That's the biggest piece of sand in the heart of this stone. And that's like a single big grain. So it's really good. You can see that little tiny grains just beneath the surface. I can zoom in on my camera even more and you can see, I don't want to block it with my finger, like just here, that little black spot. Couple more over here, and then yeah, the big one over here, and that big one you can barely see by eye, so real handy. Let me change over to a matrix opal. So here's a chunk of treated Andamuka matrix. Unfortunately it's not polished or resin coated, so it doesn't look overly great like this, but you can see you get all of those little bits of opal, and I'm not even zoomed all the way in because then I can't reach my fingers in and rotate it like this. But you can see I'm going to be able to study a lot of really finer features. Because I need this to be able to study and look at my treatments and stabilization techniques to really see how it works on the surface or just below the surface by slicing it up. So that's a major push for why I want to look at this. And I want to get a lot of photos of jigsaw patterns and little puzzle pieces because that is my favorite pattern. And I've wanted to do that for years. And interesting little inclusion pieces. So let me grab one that I'm thinking of now. I cut it on the channel very recently. It was the one with a lot of these little needles going through it. And that is super cool. So if I focus on the surface, you can see they come right up to the surface. This is not scratches from a burr, unless I've had a really bad day at carving. And then if I go deeper into the surface, you can see now I'm focusing on the needles that are going through and focusing on the back because this is crystal opal. You can see right through to the potch on the back. But if I bring it back up, you can see here a lot of these little needles. You can see the little breaches of the needle and how they leave a little bit of a pore. So it's a little bit of a porous material inside. It's probably like a gypsum or something. But I've got a lot of opals like this that I want to study, and then you can see the rolling flash hits. So it's capturing the color, it's capturing the thing that I'm really looking forward to looking at, those inclusions. There's one that's breached the surface quite severely. You can see this is really going to capture what I'm looking to capture. And I just want to record a lot of this stuff and chuck it up on the website and just keep it for myself. Because being someone that has a PhD, it doesn't automatically make people smart. That's a huge misconception. But what it does do is it shows that a person is willing to study and learn things. And so I want this to be able to study these opals on my own, and I'll share it because I've got the YouTube channel and the website and stuff. But it is like a personal pursuit of just knowledge around opal. And this is going to help me study things so much. I love how it picks up the little sweaty droplets. Even though it's not even sweat, it's just grease. I'm going to have to wear gloves when I'm doing this stuff. But yeah, even looking at the fine structure of those inclusions and how the needles branch out and everything is super interesting to me. I'm not a geologist, but I am still very interested in these kind of formations. And I'm sure people like Dr. Phil, if he's watching, will also be interested in this kind of stuff. Who might even tell me a few things that I should really look into. All in all, this little beastie is, yeah, a really fun tool to have and to use. But like I said, probably not for everybody. I know I'll get a lot of use out of it. Got a lot of handy features like the little remote. So I just took a photo then. I can take a video. So you can see here, it's recording. Gonna maybe move it around a bit if I prod it with a stick. There we go. Stop the recording, all that kind of stuff. Really handy to have a remote for that. A few improvements are needed, like the adding your own white background piece of paper. That's super useful and just needs to be done. Then you got things like the little arms. Thank the Lord they had these little arms. I didn't even think about that when I bought it, but without these, like if I were to remove these completely and we were just relying on this light over here, you'll see, yeah, not good. Not good. I'll have to try to design a polarizing filter to try to help reduce all of this, but it's just not going to work all that well. That direct light just causes way too much glare, way too many artifacts from the LEDs, but the little arms here, that completely fixes that. I can just turn this bad boy off and just rely on the arms. And the camera does a lot of its own little work in adjusting a lot of stuff as well. There you go. The little arms are really saving me. Actually, this camera's disappointing me now. If I zoom in, yeah. So it's blowing out here. That's not super white and shiny. But to you guys, it is. Future videos on the way with some microscope investigations, because I think we can learn a lot from it. I'll have a look at a lot of crazing, a lot of cracking, or studying Ethiopian opal while it's drying and stuff with this as well. Heaps of opportunity. So if you're interested, stay tuned. And yeah, I better get to it. See you guys.